I'm back from London where I took my NCLEX last Thursday. So in my last video I talked about my feelings before the NCLEX. I had just enough time to upload the video on YouTube before leaving to the airport. I had to fly from Finland to London to take the NCLEX. My recruitment company paid for the airfare and my hotel just around the corner from the test center. Throughout the review program I forced myself to stay on schedule because studying during the review program is the most important thing to guarantee success in the NCLEX. And I mean, I really forced myself because I remember there being moments when I almost couldn't keep my eyes open because I was so tired. The fact that I'm sharing my actual experience does not mean that in any way I'd consider this is ideal, but this is what it was like for me. In the end, I finished my review program on time, which was about a month before my NCLEX was scheduled. During that time, I was still doing practice tests. With the exam date nearing, I didn't want to study too much to cause myself panic and lose confidence. I felt this was especially important during the last week or so. My flight to London was on Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. I had to purchase a Oyster card before boarding the train. The Piccadilly line that goes from Heathrow to central London, it took about an hour to Holborn. And from Holborn station, it was a very short walk to the hotel. So when I got to the hotel, I checked in. The trainee had some trouble finding my reservation. I had assumed that I'd have to spell my last name without the foreign characters, which are 3 in my last name. So he couldn't find my reservation by typing my name on the computer. But there was a pile of papers that I looked through. That's where I found my reservation, and I was so surprised to learn that they had included my last name with the umlauts. I think my last name is really gonna get butchered in the US. After relaxing a bit at the hotel room, I looked up some nearby restaurants and decided to eat at a Lebanese Palestinian restaurant. I thought it was very important to eat a healthy meal the night before the exams, and I chose to eat tawaya lahma, which is lamb with peppers, carrot, courgette, and some rice. For kind of a dessert, I ordered a smoothie with strawberries and banana. I think it had something else in it, but I can't remember. On my way back to the hotel from the restaurant, I stopped by at a local supermarket to purchase some snacks and drinks. Before going back upstairs at the hotel, I wanted to check the route from the hotel to the Pearson Test Center, so I took a little walk. The distance between the hotel and the test center was maybe 200 meters, which was really good considering that in the morning I didn't have to worry about traffic, so I could just walk and there'd be no delays. I got back to the hotel and started getting ready to bed, but it must have been around midnight, so that meant that it was like 2 a.m. for me. I had set my alarm for 6:30. My exam was scheduled at 8:15. It was recommended that I arrive at the test center 30 minutes prior to this. So in the morning I took a shower, got dressed, had something for breakfast, and I was out the door by 7:30 a.m. It was only gonna take me a few minutes to walk to the test center. When I got to the center, there weren't that many people there, and from what I overheard, no one was taking the NCLEX. At the reception, I received instructions that I had to read through, and after that, the lady at the desk would ask me to approach. She took my passport, and I had to have my palm vein scanned. First the right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand. I also told them that I left my cell phone at the hotel because I didn't want to risk anything. They asked me 2 or 3 times if I had really left my cell phone at the hotel. It just shows that they care about me passing the exam in an acceptable manner. But also it kind of amused me. It made me think about how glued people are to their cell phones. On my way back home at the airport, I purchased this book, Fill in the Void: Emotion, Capitalism, and Social Media. I haven't finished reading the book yet, but so far it's been a great read about people trying to use social media to fill a certain void that is created by mostly emotional distress. But I'll let you know what I think about the book when I've finished reading it. After everything was completed at the front desk, I was asked to place my belongings to a locker in the lobby. I could only take my passport and the key to that locker with me to the test room, to which I was escorted by an assistant. Before entering the test room, the administrator checked my passport and scanned my palm veins again. I also received a laminated piece of paper and a marker, and that was actually not an erasable board, so I'd have to ask for another piece of paper if I needed to, but actually I had no use for the board. So I was able to start my exam when I arrived at the test center. I didn't have to wait until 8:15 a.m., which was my scheduled time. Now I was escorted to my cubicle with the computer. I sat down, I took a deep breath, and I clicked start. Before I could begin answering actual questions, I had to take a tutorial, and the time needed to go through those instructions counted towards the 6 hours, the maximum time allowed for test takers while taking the NCLEX. In the pre-NCLEX webinar that we had, we were told that it would be normal to use a maximum of 10 minutes. That was about the time that I used for it. After the tutorial, I started answering questions, and as a person who's taking the NCLEX, I'm not at a liberty to discuss or reconstruct the questions that I had in the exam, but what I can tell you is this. By the time I'd answered question number 14, I was absolutely certain that I would finish my exam with 75 questions. In our pre-NCLEX webinar, we were told that the first few questions needed to be answered correctly to not fall below the standard. Not that every question didn't deserve due diligence, but the first questions were a top priority. I actually remember that the second question in my exam was a select all that apply or SATA question. I've learned that select all that apply questions are ranked higher level questions. I kept getting so many of those questions that the ratio between other question types and select all that apply questions was 50-50 for a long time. By the time I had my 75th question, 30% of my questions had been select all that apply. Judging by the number of select all that apply questions that I had, I felt really confident from early on, but at the same time I was a bit confused. What everyone had told me was that it's normal to feel that the questions are too difficult, to feel that you failed the exam, but I had none of those kind of negative feelings. Like I said, I knew by the time I had my 14th question that I was gonna finish successfully with 75 questions. It took me 1 hour and 10 minutes to finish 75 questions, so that means that I spent less than a minute per question. After the official part of the NCLEX, I had to answer 30 research questions and complete an exit survey with demographic information. The purpose of answering the 30 questions, which do not count towards your actual NCLEX, is to further develop the NCLEX. So all in all, I spent less than 2 hours in the room. All of those snacks and drinks were bought for nothing. I had prepared to leave the room after 75 questions, but nobody knows if they're gonna be in there for 75 5 questions or 265 questions. I'm really glad that I didn't have to spend 6 hours in there. After the exam, I walked back to the hotel. It had been raining meanwhile, but it wasn't raining anymore. Once I got back to my room, I messaged a group of other Avant applicants. I let them know that I'd already finished and that I was very confident about passing the exam. Most of them replied that they couldn't believe it, that I'd finished it in an hour. I don't think I would have either if I were them. Together we were waiting for the Pearson View to send me the thank you email, after which I'd been told that I should use the Pearson View trick to check if I get a good pop-up or a bad pop-up because of a loophole that they have on their website. So I did get the good pop-up, and that made me feel even more confident, even though I had no idea how reliable this trick is. I thought I could celebrate already, even though the first official results, the quick results, would be available for purchase 48 hours after the exam, which would be Monday in my case, because the weekend got in the way of 48 hours. So because I finished my exam so early on Thursday, I had plenty of time to discover London. On Friday morning, I woke up quite early. I only had a couple of hours before I'd have to leave to the airport. So I traveled from Heathrow to Arlanda, which is the airport in Stockholm. I had 45 minutes before my flight to Helsinki would depart. The plane from Stockholm to Helsinki was a small plane. It was 8 p.m. Friday evening that I was out of the airport after a day of traveling, and after the NCLEX, I just wanted to take it easy. So I decided to watch a movie on Netflix. Sometime during that movie, around 10:30 p.m. on Friday night, I received an email from Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies. Seeing this email, I was a bit confused. I was wondering why they're sending me an email. I thought it's probably something like, thank you for taking the NCLEX. We're reminding you that we'll have the results in 1 month. That's when you'll receive your license. But as I read on, the email started with the words congratulations. There was an attachment that included my actual nursing license. So I started at 8. I finished around 9 a.m. London time, which is 11 a.m. Finnish time. So 11 a.m. on Thursday morning until 10:30 p.m. on Friday evening is less than 36 hours. I thought I was gonna wait for 48 hours until I get my quick results, but surprise! Colorado sent me the license. Like, how did this happen? Why didn't nobody tell me? And so for a while now, it'll feel like there's nothing happening from my point of view, but there's actually a lot happening behind the scenes, kind of, because I have now taken and passed the NCLEX, because I have my nursing license. Avant can finally start the immigration paperwork. They've already asked me to send them all the necessary documents, so everything's ready. We were just waiting for the license to give us a green light, and at the moment it's estimated that it'll be spring, summer that I get to put my foot on the US soil.